Hi there, I'm Cindy Linden, and this is a Cookalong podcast quick bite. Some of you listeners who live in places other than the United States may find today's podcast highly amusing. I was watching a Jamie Oliver video on YouTube the other day, and I don't remember what he was making. I was interested in the recipe, but he was using an ingredient that I wasn't familiar with. He called it golden syrup, and he just opened a can, or what he would call a tin, and poured it into whatever it was he was making. In the United States, we don't have those tins. You can probably get them if you look hard enough to find them, but I didn't even know what golden syrup was. And I'm old enough that I should know most common baking ingredients. This was brand new to me, and I was intrigued. I thought, what is it? What kind of syrup comes in a can? Is it some sort of maple syrup? What is it? So I did some research, and in the process, discovered that in many parts of the world, this product exists, and it is used instead of corn syrup. In the United States, we use corn syrup, and it has developed quite a nasty reputation as being bad for us. It's just a clear, thick, highly sweet, flavorless syrup that is used to make some things smoother and make hard things like candy crunchier. It's made from corn, obviously, which is not helpful for the environment at all. Corn is sort of taking over the world, or at least this country, and displacing a lot of other crops, which means that many farmers are switching to corn because there's so many things that are made out of corn. It's everywhere. And livestock who don't really do well on corn are being fed corn because it's cheap and it's plentiful. So I'm not a big fan of corn syrup, but on the other hand, there were things, and notice I said that in the past tense, there were things that couldn't be made right without it because of its chemical properties. Golden syrup, it turns out, has the same chemical properties and will do the same things, but it's got a little bit of sort of golden flavor, and I don't know how to explain it any better than that. It's like it's been caramelized, but it hasn't really. And it's this thick syrup that you can keep for months and months that won't go bad and won't crystallize, and you can use it every place that you would use corn syrup. It does not work the other way around. You cannot use corn syrup in place of golden syrup. So I thought, well, if we can't easily find it in tins, in cans in this country, I wonder if there's a way for me to make my own so I can see what it is, what it tastes like, what it can do. And it turns out that, yes, there are recipes that you can make, and they're not hard, and they will result in this fabulous replacement for corn syrup, and it will impart that kind of quiet flavor to everything that you use it in. And this is a good thing, not a bad thing. It will contribute to the depth of what you're making. It only takes 3 ingredients and a tiny bit of patience. Here again, some of you are going to chuckle at this and think it's really funny, because if you can find a certain ingredient, your golden syrup will be better. And that ingredient is cane sugar. Now, all of you in the United States here are going to think about the C&H bag that says cane sugar. It may have been cane sugar once, and you certainly can use regular sugar in this recipe. But if you can find some actual authentic cane sugar, which means it's not made from beets, it's not made from corn, it's made from actual sugar cane, and there's not a lot of processing involved. It's a little bit moister than regular sugar, and if you smell it, it almost smells like the sugar's been burnt just a little bit. But what it is that all of those sticky, flavorful compounds haven't been washed off, bleached off the sugar, and so they have a tiny flavor of their own. I found some cane sugar in 2 places, in Mexican grocery stores, in bags, and I found it in a local, what we call a refillery store. And no, there aren't many of them. Yes, it's Portland, Oregon, but we aren't granola-ish enough anymore to have a bunch of places where you can go in and buy things in bulk and put them in your own containers. But there is this one, and I knew they had the cane sugar because I remember seeing it and opening the bin and smelling it and being tickled by the fact that there was this ingredient, but I had no idea at the time what I was going to use it for. Now I do. So I have purchased some of that in order to make golden syrup because I am going to keep this on hand all the time, and I'm going to ditch the corn syrup. As soon as my bottle is empty, I'm going to stop buying it. If I can make my own stuff and it's better for me and better for the environment and tastes better, why in the heck would I not do that? This is going to make about 3 cups. And for that amount of golden syrup, which is easy to store because it doesn't need a huge container, you'll need 1¼ cups water or 300 milliliters. And you need 4 cups of sugar. And if you can find it, cane sugar is the most fun and flavorful thing to use here. That's 800 grams. And you need 1 to 2 slices or wedges of a lemon. You can use fresh lemon juice, and if you don't have fresh lemon juice, you can use bottled lemon juice. And if you don't have bottled lemon juice, you can use a ½ teaspoon of citric acid. It's really only 3 ingredients, okay? The water, the sugar, and the lemon. Now here's how to use those ingredients. You're going to place the sugar and the water in a saucepan. A nonstick one is a pretty good idea, and you want to stir it up to just combine it. And then you're going to bring it to a boil. You're going to stir it regularly to keep it from burning on the bottom, but you're going to do it really, really gently. Because what you don't want is for the sugar to go up along the sides of the pan and turn into crystals, because that's kind of contagious. It will infect the rest of your mix and make that crystallize too when it cools down. So you want to keep those crystals from forming by not letting the mixture splash up onto the sides of the pan. So gently, gently stirring. Once it's boiling, you're going to drop in the slice of lemon or the citric acid or the lemon juice. And you're going to turn the heat way down to like 3 or 2. What you want it to do is to simmer gently. You're not going to cover it. You're not going to stir it again. Do not stir it again. You're just going to let it simmer on very low, so it should be bubbling a little bit, but not very much, for 40 to 60 minutes until the sugar is a rich golden color. If you want to use a thermometer, that can make this easier, and you want the temperature to be between 240 to 250 degrees Fahrenheit, I think the lower end of that is actually better. If when you've done that, your syrup is too thick and stiff, you can add a little bit of water. If it's too runny, then you just keep cooking it until it's a little bit thicker. When it reaches that temperature or the consistency that you want it to be, you want to turn off the heat and let it just sit for a few minutes. And then you're going to pour that syrup into a glass jar and let it cool completely before you put the lid on the jar. It will get stiffer as it cools down, so don't be afraid to take it off what seems like maybe a hair early. Keep that lid tightly sealed. Store it in a cabinet. It just needs to be room temperature. It'll keep for months. I'm replacing the corn syrup in a couple of recipes with this. One of them you'll find on my website called Almond Addiction, which is an almond toffee that I make mostly at the holidays. It's got chocolate on the outside and crunchy toffee with almonds in it, and that has got a lot of corn syrup in it. And I'm going to replace that with the golden syrup and expect a little bit better flavor with the same crunchy effects. I'm kind of excited to try that. I also use it when I make frozen custard because I was working really hard to find the perfectly creamy texture for frozen custard, and it was the corn syrup that helped me get there. But I don't ever feel good about using it. Not like there's a lot of it in there, but now I can replace that with golden syrup. You could also use golden syrup to make pecan pie. This will be less bad for you because it won't have all the corn syrup in it. And it should enrich the flavor some to a sort of a new level. You could put it over pancakes. There's something called golden syrup cake, which is a loaf cake that has syrup in it, and you could try that. There's also ginger cakes and all kinds of good recipes. You type in recipes for golden syrup and you'll find some fun things. Now you have a new ingredient to go play with. Start looking for recipes. This was so easy, as you must have figured out. All you do is boil it, simmer it, and cool it. So go have fun looking for ways to use this. Think about ditching your corn syrup. You don't need it once you've made this. And this is the nicest thing. You don't have to go to the store to buy corn syrup. You can just make this at home. It's much nicer. Any kind of sugar will do. It's going to be fun for all of us to play with. Let me know what you think of it, either on the comment page of the website or on the Facebook page for the Cookalong podcast. Tune in next week for another brand new podcast. And until next time, happy cooking!